Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to the podcast where we chat, argue, and wax poetic about the movies that we love, hate, or that are simply worth talking about. All movies have something to say, and we love to analyze what they capture. Welcome to the Chatter After. I am Brandon Alvarado, Monkey D. Bradford here, and I'm excited and ready to accept this mission to talk about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Guys, do you accept?
I accept. I choose this mission. I'm in.
Is my laptop going to explode? Because I'm going to have to consider.
Damn it. You know
Because I was
what?
about to say,
I
not
should
even
have.
answer. Because I should just be
Well,
quiet.
the 5 seconds are up.
5 seconds. Brandon
Bummer.
is self-destructed.
I'm back. That's how you know I'm not really in the IMF. I would not make it one day in Ethan Hunt's shoes. But you know what? We're not here to be in his shoes. We're here to see him use those shoes as he runs through the screen consistently, doing crazy, maniacal, interesting stunt action greatness in the big silver screen. We're here to talk Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. The Shatter After crew did an amazing job in sharing their tier list of the Mission Impossible series with Mission Successful, Mission Accomplished, Mission Adequate, and Mission Failure. If you want to watch that episode, Mike is going to do the awesome job as producer to put it in the comments below, put the link in the description.
He just made my job harder for no reason, but yeah, it's up here somewhere, I guess.
Well,
There it is.
it's I trust my team, like Ethan did when he left them alone for half the movie. But we're going to talk about this film. We're going to have fun with it. And if you haven't seen Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, you probably don't like movies at all, because you should know that we're going to spoil the hell out of it. It's in the corner of the pod. It's called The Shatter After. We're going to shatter after what we've seen. So let's go around the table, give our brief thoughts on the film, and then let's break it down. Robert, you saw it? You saw it early. So you saw it before
I did.
Before any of us.
Any of you, but there were people who saw it way earlier than me. They were screening this thing like a week or two prior. But yeah, I saw it.
How was it?
So I was the first to be disappointed.
Ooh. We're starting.
Yeah.
I like this.
You shouldn't have come to me first, because this podcast is going to start angry. Mission Impossible is one of my favorite series. It's one of my favorite franchises. I was just full of love in the show. Cliff and Mike can attest when we did our tier list. I love almost all of this series. I decidedly did not love The Final Reckoning, which is too slow, too long, too convoluted, and most importantly, jettisons most of the things I love about the Mission Impossible series. A sense of fun, gone. The team working together to achieve a common goal, for the most part, gone. And instead, we get a couple of nifty Tom Cruise stunt sequences. I did really like the submarine sequence, but there's not much else here that really worked for me. And honestly, I think it's probably the worst in the series. It's between this and MI2. If we go back to that tier list, I'm putting this in the bottom tier with MI2. Yeah, this would be in the mission. This would be mission failure tier for me. Listen, no one's more upset about this than me. I love these movies, and I just feel like they severely dropped the ball with this one. Was it because of COVID? Was it because of the strikes? Was it because of the muted reaction to Dead Reckoning? Was it because Cruise and McQuarrie were just spent? Who can say? But I'm sad. I'm sad to report this. I hope you all enjoyed it more.
Oh, wait. Man. It's funny. This is honestly kind of like this is the first time I thought about this movie since it dropped last week. I saw it last Friday. And I like it. I had a fun time. Do I think this is the best Mission Impossible movie? No, it definitely isn't. I'd argue and say this feels like this might be redundant, I don't know. But this feels like I felt like I watched a Marvel movie almost in terms of Mission Impossible, which, I had a good time. I had a lot of fun with the action. The plot felt a little too easy to follow, and it felt a little like too easy for Ethan to succeed. and all that stuff. And I do have
The
some,
final reckoning was too easy.
yeah, like I knew this man was going to
Wow.
win. Like I knew this man was going to survive somehow, and like I still felt a little disappointed with it. But like, yeah, I enjoyed the action scenes. Loved some of the actor cameos. I can't even say character cameos because I feel like anyone could have played these characters outside of our main three. Luther, um, Ethan, and what was the other guy? Simon Pegg's character,
Benji.
Benji. Thank you.
Benji.
Yeah, like outside of them three, I feel like anyone else could have played any of these characters and whatnot. But yeah, I like it. Is it this? Do I think it's the greatest movie? No, but it reckoned. It did the thing.
Hashtag
Like
reckoned.
I liked it. It reckoned.
It reckoned. Put that
Yeah.
on the poster, Tom Cruise.
But I will say this is one of the most goofiest villains of the entire franchise for me, which we will
worst
get into.
worst villain of the franchise. But yeah, we'll save it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not nearly as hard on this as Robert. I think I fall closer in line with Cliff on this one, where I still had fun with this movie. It is the worst of the modern era Mission Impossibles, obviously. Like, if this was going on the tier list, it's worse than like the last 4 movies we've gotten. But I still had fun with it. There were still a lot of great stunts. The submarine, the airplanes, that was a ton of fun. I did like what we got from the supporting cast with like Benji. I didn't like Grace in this movie at all. Like, I didn't like her in Dead Reckoning. I really didn't like her in this one either. And it's like, I don't know what this character is supposed to be in this franchise. But outside of that, we had some great stunts, and that's really what I'm here for. It's just to see how much we can watch Tom Cruise just run across the screen, and we had some great running moments in this movie.
Sponsored
That's the
by
next tier list.
Nike.
Every time Tom Cruise runs, I wish get some of that Nike money over here would be so huge for us. But yeah, like this movie's fine. It's probably still gonna have the best action of any blockbuster we get this year. Again, Mission Impossible curve.
Okay.
But I had fun with it.
So, it does not make my top 3. If you were to ask me, where it falls on the tier list, I cannot, because it's a duology. I would say that the Reckoning duology, the Rectology, is really mission adequate, for me.
It's funny you say this, Brandon, because screw it. Let's just put it in the
This
tier list. You guys thought I was throwing this away. It's still here.
I don't remember what mission adequate was. What tier was that? And I don't even see mission adequate.
That was formerly adequate. Now it's accomplished. That's
Oh no, they put it
tier?
down.
Okay.
Go further down then.
So,
Oh yeah,
mediocre.
I thought it was accomplished and adequate, but no, it's mediocre. So if you were to ask me, the ones that I would consider mission successful, I would say, so to me, mission accomplished would be MI3, and mission successful would be Rogue Nation, Ghost Protocol. Ghost Protocol being the number 1. To me, Ghost Protocol is my favorite. And Rogue Nation is. So it's funny because the tier list made me watch. I came home from watching Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning to rewatch Rogue Nation because I didn't remember. Like I couldn't remember how it was, and it's great, but I still love Ghost Protocol a lot more. And the one thing that, apart from that, mediocre, right? The one thing that kind of bums me out from this film is that the best Mission Impossible movies are films that you remember and you get excited to watch again. I don't want to watch this movie again. Like, I'm done.
Nope.
And that is so sad to me. And the other side of it is, I agree that part of what's going on that we enjoy in the Mission Impossible movies is the stunts, it's the action. But the one thing that I love about MI3, Ghost Protocol, and Rogue Nation is that these, for being action movies, they're very smart movies. Like, the plot is smart, the scene structure is smart, and of course you got the chemistry of the team. So you lose a lot of that here. Like these movies are not smart at all. And it's funny because the one thing that I was thinking about, if I want to watch a smart sci-fi action movie with Tom Cruise, I just go to Minority Report, which is phenomenal. So it's not that he's not been in smart action movies, and this was more sci-fi-esque than all the other ones because of the whole entity thing. But I feel that everything was fluff, and more than even Fallout, which I'm not a fan of Fallout. Um, More than even Fallout, what meant the most to this film was those solo events of the submarine, which to me just kept lagging and lagging and lagging and lagging, and it slowed the movie to a crawl for me. Because for me, what I love most of Mission Impossible is I want to see how they solve it. Like you could have cut those scenes down a lot more, still have the tension, and not make it 3 hours long. The whole thing with the airplane thing was cool, but it got boring after the first 2 minutes. You know, and not only that, yes, we don't have this movie doesn't really have a villain. It doesn't. I wouldn't even call Gabe.
I don't know. I hate it every time
Well,
Gabriel was on screen.
because we love
Technically,
Ilsa, but it doesn't have an antagonist. The antagonist is an idea. It's not even an actual person. And by the fact that Gabriel follows his own agenda, his agenda really doesn't do anything. He's just another force in the grid. And that is confirmed by the way he just and dies. Like it was so nonchalantly depressing the way that he just stops functioning. And
That was
And
funny.
but that's what I
So-
mean. It's not meant to be. It's supposed to be satisfying because every other interaction with a villain that Ethan has had, you feel that closure like, yes, he fucking did it. You know what I mean? Like you feel accomplished with Ethan and the team. There's really not that much here.
two things. One, Brendan really wants to put this in mission failure. He knows he does.
I'm
I
not
agree
going to
with him
do it because it's the
100%.
last one, but because I'm going to announce Debt Reckoning, I
and-
think saves the duology a little bit because Debt Reckoning is a bit stronger.
two,
No, but we're reviewing this
fucking
as
fail
its
it.
own movie. We did Red Reckoning at its own
Fair
movie.
enough.
This is
Fail
its own
it.
movie.
Fail it.
so
I guess at some point we can kind of, towards the end, look at it as like a full picture. You know, we can give it the whole Infinity War Endgame treatment if we want, like the Deathly Hallows treatment
Fair.
if we want. It's like
Fair.
two
Right.
combined
So
pieces into one.
yeah, go ahead.
Brett-
I'm sorry, I'm going to shut up.
I would say Brandon alluded to this, and it's something I couldn't agree with more. And there's something that Mike said that I actually take great umbrage and exception to, where Mike said, really what we're here for is the stunts. And that is something that I've heard echoed around the discussion of this movie for the last week. And my thing is I don't know how you all watch movies, but I have never been here just for the stunts. I was here before the stunts. I was enjoying the series before the stunts. You get to Ghost Protocol, which is really where the stunts start. The Burj Khalifa hanging outside the window. I mean, that movie, I don't even know if it was particularly sold on that sequence. Yes, it was an incredibly fun stunt that they put Tom Cruise on the outside of the building, but it served the story. It was part of the story. It wasn't the end-all, be-all of what Ghost Protocol was about. You get to Rogue Nation. The most notable stunt from that movie is him hanging outside the plane as it lifts off. It's in the first 10 minutes of the movie. That movie isn't built around that stunt at all. It's a cold open. Rogue Nation is about the team. It's about the story. You get to Fallout, which I agree with Brandon. I was very conflicted on Fallout at release. I have enjoyed that movie's grown on me over time because the parts of it work really work. But that's the one where I think, yeah, exactly, shotgun arms. But I do think, and we talked about this when we ranked them, the stunts started to take over. And with this new movie, with Final Reckoning, it really is just about the stunts. And like I said this in the other episode, but I'm here for the cleverness. I want to see the IMF team outsmart their opponent. I want to see them. One of my favorite sequences in this movie is the hallway sneak in Ghost Protocol, or how they trick Solomon Lane into the glass cage in Rogue Nation. That is Mission Impossible for me. The stunts are just gravy. And then in this movie, all we have is the stunts. So I can't be on this train of, well, we're just here for the stunts, so it was good enough. Not good enough for me.
I totally get where you're coming from, and I agree with most of it. I will say this started with Fallout. You guys are right. That's a trilogy of movies at this point, where the series has changed from what it was in Rogue Nation and Ghost Protocol and even Mission Impossible 3, you know? And so something that we've been talking about, just like getting through The Last of Us, right? By the time people are watching this, 2 episodes of Beyond the Clickers are out. We talked about the entire season, not spoiling that show at all, but kind of understanding where this story's coming from in comparison to what we expect or what we want from it is a very different like experience, I guess. Like there are things in The Last of Us Part 2 that we wanted to see in the series that just kind of never manifested. And I feel that's kind of just what's been happening with the Mission Impossible franchise. For these last 3 movies have just been so stunt heavy, and we've been more and more moving away from that. So it started in Fallout, and I think we all weren't as high on Fallout as maybe other people, but then Dead Reckoning happens, and I'm not as high on that movie, and then this movie happened, so it's just kind of been like a slow decline, I think, in what we want this franchise to be. And so by the time we get to this one, I think I kind of just accepted, yeah, we're going to see Tom Cruise do something ridiculous, and as much as it sucked that he was separate from his team for a chunk of the movie, at least it remembered to keep cutting back to Benji and the crew. So like, I guess I just took that and like, hey, it's not what I wanted, but it's given me enough to where it's at least enjoyable. Not the best at all, but I had more fun with it, I guess, just because I knew it was being stupid action movie.
It's not a chunk of the movie that they're separated for. It's most of the movie. I mean, being that this is billed as, I mean, we all know if it makes enough money, it's not the final installment, but it's at least being, set up as the cumulative installment. How little screen time Ethan and Benji get is ridiculous. I mean, they're barely in this movie together when they're really there. I know they treat Luther more like the heart of the Mission Impossible series, but Benji and Ethan's relationship is what this series has thrived on for basically like 4 installments now. And to see them essentially separated for the whole movie, and to see there's a scene in the trailer where they're sort of embracing and touching heads that doesn't even appear in the final film. Hugely frustrating.
So to bring some things, everything Mike said, agreed. I think it also kind of, to be fair, beyond tier list, I'm happy that people are enjoying Final Reckoning because now they have the Mission Impossible that works for them. I can still go to the Mission Impossible that works for me. So, but if you ask me why it doesn't work for me, I've already said it. But and what something you mentioned, Robert, yes, the Ghost Protocol trailer strongly shows the Dubai scene.
Okay, so
they did sell it. They sold it a little bit.
Yeah. But I will say that's not
agreed.
what the series was known for at that
I agree.
Point.
Like as after Rogue Nation, you feel that story is just there to give a reason for the stunt, as opposed to the stunt just being something interesting to catch everyone's eye. I miss. Yeah. I mean, it's just not our Mission Impossible, but it's still Mission Impossible. He runs a lot.
I will say again, having watched all of these movies recently in a row, like I do think this is, like Cliff was saying earlier, this is the Marvel effect of being very nostalgic, and we're bringing characters back, and we're tying things back into Mission Impossible 1 and Mission Impossible 3, and it's like, I don't know, I guess having watched them all in a row, having watched them all in a row, like I appreciated the trip down memory lane a little bit, where it's like, yeah, Ethan is alone and that sucks, and I kind of wish he was with Benji and Luther and the team, but it's also like, yeah, he's doing his own thing like in the old days, and we're seeing callbacks to those older movies, and that was just oddly satisfying, kind of like an Avengers Endgame. And I am of the mindset that Avengers Endgame is significantly worse than Avengers Infinity War. So it's like, yeah, it's doing the Marvel thing. We just didn't have Cruise sign off at the credits. It's fine. It's whatever.
So I am gonna say this. All the ties. So it's funny because all the all the ties to the origins or the past in Debt Reckoning, I didn't enjoy. All the ones in Final Reckoning, I really enjoyed. And I think the reason I'm mostly mad of the Final Reckoning is that there's a good movie in there. There's a good movie in there. Like you could have gotten a B movie in there, but they chose to bury it in everything else. Because I do see where it could have been a good movie. Like it, I'm not the type of like I've seen Oppenheimer a million times. I don't care about the runtime. I love that film. I love Endgame. I can watch it multiple times if I can. Like, but it's like one of those things like action films, the best ones, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes tops. Like and I don't know. Just
Let
saying.
let me be clear. When I say this movie's too long, I don't specifically mean length. This movie is essentially the same length as John Wick Chapter 4, which I think is a masterpiece. And I watched John Wick Chapter 4, and I feel like that movie's over in an hour. Whereas when in actuality it's 3 hours long, you just get swept up in it. This one
I didn't know it was that long.
yeah, this one you
That's
feel
crazy.
this one you feel
And that movie's great.
yeah, I mean, this one in Final Reckoning, you feel every moment of the nearly 3 hours, and it's not so much length as it is pacing. And I think the pacing of this
Fair.
movie is a wreck, quite honestly. And
And
I think a lot of people are going to realize that upon second and third viewings, honestly. But
No, yeah, it's an amalgamation of so many stories, but somehow still being very simplistic in its introduction to what's happening.
yeah.
Because I think one of the most noticeable things, it's funny because you all mentioned, like Robert, you mentioned how you were there with this franchise before the stunts, and you'll be there even afterwards. Even with how Final Reckoning and whatever they end up doing in the future, we'll probably get some new Mission Impossible movie 5 years from now, probably. And it's funny because like that's one of the reasons why I didn't like this franchise was because it just felt so action like heavy. Like it felt like that was kind of the driving force behind these later movies, you know. So watching this, it kind of feels like okay, you're doubling down on it, but like I don't know if you're like yeah, it doesn't necessarily feel like it's adding to the plot per se. Like there's really no reason for Ethan to go into a submarine, even though that was the main reason I was in for this movie. I just wanted to see how they were going to get um how they were going to get Tom Cruise into a submarine and how they were going to get him out. And like I felt satisfied. That's probably my favorite part of the movie. But I don't know if it necessarily was needed to advance this plot. Like the entity could have been buried in a volcano at this point. In any other wild terrain and whatnot
Mhm.
for the same kind of things to happen. But yeah, it's interesting because now again I haven't thought about this movie since I saw it in theaters, and maybe that's a bad thing. Where it's just like, cool, I enjoyed it in the moment, but now I've moved on to like, Ballerina and all these other action movies are coming out now, so like my mind is already on something else. But but it is interesting. I don't know where the plot went wrong. Because I was on board the moment they showed a VHS tape and we were going through the greatest hits. I was like, okay, I get it. I see we're in for something goofy here, and I'm on board. We're not taking ourselves too seriously, but it eventually loses its way for me as the movie goes on. And I agree with Robert that like I feel like pacing kind of adds to this because
Yeah.
we're essentially getting what I don't want to say World War III, but like an end of the world kind of scenario in this, and
Like almost every mission.
but this one doesn't
Yeah.
feel as effective though, and I don't think like I
Yeah.
think the Mission Impossible movies probably have hinted that oh if Ethan fails then it could be the end of the world, but it still felt personal. Like
Yeah.
the entity
Yeah, I think
versus
that
Ethan, yeah, it doesn't really work.
I think that's it though. It's just the entity and Gabriel are bad villains. That's really what it is because Gabriel's just hamming it up the entire time, and then the entity is not a tangible thing. Like if the entity was like Ultron, maybe it would make more sense, right? Like there's no voice. It's just the concept
Could you
of a robot.
imagine
But
that you
it's
actually
kind
see
of
Ultron? Like that's what you find
yeah.
in the Doomsday Vault. There's a body waiting for it.
Well, like if it's still it can still be AI, but it needs to have a voice in the story, right? And it just doesn't exist. It can be an
The
It just has to be
evil
more
anti-god.
machine.
menacing.
I have seen,
Right.
this is not my original criticism, although I agree with it entirely. I have seen the argument online that this feels less like a spy adventure and more like a Tom Clancy-esque techno thriller, which I agree with,
Yeah.
just based on
It's
the way,
giving Reacher.
just based on the way the plot is structured and the entity itself, which sort of veers into techno thriller, if not straight up science fiction territory. I mean, yeah, there's always a threat. There's always like a nuclear threat in the Mission Impossible movies, but a lot of the earlier ones are like very personal. Ethan's trying to take down a specific dealer. Ethan's trying to find a specific knock list. Ethan's trying to find, they are more personal. It was never like, well, the whole world is going to blow up if Ethan's not in this place at this time being the hero. And I think that does lead it to a different tone. I want to address the comic book stuff for a minute, because this movie does have a comic book problem. And what it is it's doing something the Mission Impossible series never did before, which is turn back in on itself. And oh, well, guess what? This ties into the rabbit's foot from Mission Impossible 3. And oh, guess what? Gabriel comes from Ethan's past. And even though they basically pretty much abandoned that story that they set up in Dead Reckoning, there is still lip service paid to this mysterious origin story from Ethan Hunt. And oh, guess what? Yeah. Shea Wiggum is actually playing the son of the villain from the first movie. This is comic book plotting. And you know what? This is the same kind of shit that ruined the Daniel Craig James Bond series. I love Casino Royale. It's one of my top 3 James Bond movies. And then comic book plotting, where everything had to be related to everything else.
Everything's connected.
Yeah, everything had to be connected, and everybody had to be related to Bond's origin, clear down to where Blofeld was his like stepbrother or half brother or whatever. I hate that shit. And it's fine for comic books, comic book movies, which are based on comic book properties. That's the shit that stuff lives on. Don't bring that into my James Bond movies, and don't bring it into my Mission Impossible movies. And they successfully avoided that until Dead Reckoning and the Final Reckoning, when Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie, the writer and director of these films, co-writer and director of these films, basically decided Ethan needs an origin and everything needs to tie into his past. And it's the last thing the series needed. And quite frankly, I think it's lazy.
Not only that, and I don't know that I needed to think or assume that Ethan was a criminal.
The whole thing about the choice, there's this light retcon in these last 2 movies where IMF isn't just like a spy agency that recruits you. They actually go out and get people who have nowhere else to turn, either because they've been arrested or they've been in prison, and then they have to make a choice whether to, face that or join the I. None of this existed.
It's also kind of dumb.
So I'm going to let Cliff expound in a second, but not only is it dumb, but then they don't even properly pay it off. Then we get to this movie and they're like, we're just going to kind of hand wave that stuff away.
And we only really did that to justify Grace joining the team.
So it was, but Cliff, go.
Oh, no, I'm just going to piggyback because it was so stupid, because I'm just like, if I'm in the mind of a criminal, I either spend life in prison or I get to go on these bombastic missions for the government. Like, I hate to be the comic book nerd, it's very Suicide Squad-esque. I'm like, what do you think I'm going to pick here, to be honest? And then when it comes to the tie-in with Gabriel, I'm just like, what? Y'all keep showing me that Gabriel killed his wife or his former love. Did he like track
Well,
him in
he treats every woman like that in this film for some reason. Like, he treats every woman that he interacts with in these 2 movies like they're the final woman in the world. He treats Elsa the same way he treats Grace, the same way he treats Pom Clementia's character, Clementive's character.
Her name's Paris, funny enough. But he's just a flirt. I don't know.
which I don't get. Like, Tom Cruise ain't got that much riz, I'm sure. I'm sure it's not that high.
Have you seen Risky Business? No.
Have you seen him jump on the couch, Cliff?
No, I gotta see that in what's that, Eyes Wide Shut?
I also take exception. I said this to a friend of mine because I also people saying it's the end game of Mission Impossible. It's the end game. It's Mission Impossible's version of Endgame, and I'm just like, motherfuckers. If this was Endgame, Benji and Ethan would have got a lot more than 3 minutes together or whatever they get.
Robert is dropping
Luther
MF
didn't have
bombs
to
here.
die.
Jeremy Renner would have showed up at the end, so I could at least left the theater with a smile on my face, and someone would have had the goddamn courtesy to say the word Ilsa out loud at some point in this movie. She's never even mentioned. We see her in the flashbacks at the beginning and the quick cuts of the previous 7 movies. Nobody talks about Ilsa. So that's not Endgame to me.
Can I talk now?
Yeah.
I guess I need to bring some shred of positivity to this podcast.
How do you
I
like
would
being
love to
on
talk
this
about these
side?
characters.
How do you like being on this side of the?
You know, I'm on this side most times. It's just with The Last of Us where I'm not. That's really all it is. But yeah, again, like this movie has the hard job of being the finale because this is billed as the last one. I know you guys probably don't believe it, but it's being billed as the last one. And it's got the hard job of trying to tie all of these movies together. And you can make the argument that they shouldn't be trying to do that. I totally get it. But yeah, like half this franchise was Ethan just doing like solo missions. And so we have him meeting these other characters, and he meets like Hannah Waddingham, and he meets Mr. Milchick, right? In the submarine. And it's like, I like those moments. I like getting Ethan in opportunities to interact with new characters. Like Katie O'Brien in this movie is only here for like 2 scenes. Phenomenal, right? I also really like the additions. Greg Davis joining the team. I thought he was fun, even though he had nothing to do. And then, of course, bringing in Palm, being like this silent assassin. She's basically like their Drax the Destroyer in this version. I found that so interesting. Like I like the idea of Ethan forming a new team. That's cool. And that kind of speaks to what the first 3 movies were. But that also again goes into the conflict of what you guys were saying of we made continuity, we established a team, we spent 4 movies with that team. It's weird that the finale he's not doing that. And I agree. It's just in this weird amalgamation of trying to honor everything, you end up honoring nothing. And I think that's unfortunate because, as we've been saying, there's a really good movie in here. And I do like there's nothing in this movie I specifically hate as much as you guys. I just don't know if it all works together. Like it doesn't have the synergy it needs. The only thing that I really didn't like is everything with the president. Like I love Angela Bassett, but like I don't know what Nick Offerman's doing in this movie. Like, are we gonna kill the president? Are we
It's
gonna
like-
hit the button?
There
Like
are-
this was drama I didn't need.
There are so many talking heads in this movie doing talking head things because they,
Yeah.
Nick Offerman gets added, submarine people get added. They also bring back like a couple of the government people from Dead Reckoning who show up in this talking head scenes, Hannah Waddington, and it's just like there's so many characters in this. We don't really care about taking up screen
That's
time.
the stuff I'd shave off.
And it's not the
The submarine captain doesn't know Ethan's name because every time he addresses, he just says Mister.
What's up, Mister?
I will say, listen, nothing but love. I like Haley Atwell. I actually really like Haley Atwell in Dead Reckoning, but Katie O'Brien has more presence in her 90 seconds in this movie than Haley Atwell does for the entire film for some reason.
Who's Katie O'Brien? Instruct me.
Homegirl who was in the submarine. She was giving him instructions
Submarine.
about the suit.
Yeah,
Yes.
she said don't mess up.
Don't
my
break.
suit.
Don't,
Something
don't
like
mess
that.
him.
She's in,
She's in Love Lies Bleeding.
yeah, say Love Lies Bleeding. I think was she on The Mandalorian? I feel like she was, or was she on one of the Star Wars shows? Let's just.
I do not
James
know.
Gunn, you know what to do.
She's in Love Lies Bleeding. She's a great actress, and after her 90 seconds, I wanted her to join the team. So
She's
it's
in
not
Twisters
necessarily.
too.
Yeah.
So it's fun. Something that I did. So let's talk about things that we liked. Robert, just put yourself on timeout. Find something. But like one of the things that I like, you mentioned the team. I did like the idea that if you really, it's meta, but I liked it and I saw it. And McQuarrie, Tom Cruise, if you were going for that, I caught it. I've been the only person that caught it, but I like the fact that the team, if you look at it, resembles the entire world. Because you got someone from almost every different sphere of the world. You got America, you got London, you got Paris, you got the Inuits. like I like the fact the mesh of different type of people that got together on that. I did like that. I like the concept of giving Benji the lead on the team, it kind of hurts seeing him suffering through training wheels. I kind of wanted him to be in training wheels in Debt Reckoning, and then seeing him as a full-fledged leader here. You know what I mean? Because if you're gonna give him the command of the team, and like the way Tom Cruise presented it was like, lead your team, take care of your team, like you're in charge now, like you're now the Ethan Hunt for this little team. I would have liked to see that a lot earlier in the duology, and in Dead Reckoning, I would have been because that I liked what happened in the end, because that's what happens in the end. He leads a team, and that's how they're able to do what they need to do with the entity. But I kind of wanted to see a bit more of that.
I
So
would say Benji's arc in Dead Reckoning, though, is him still being like second to Luther. Like the movie starts off with them trying to like defuse this bomb, and Luther's the one who has to take point, and Benji has to like
yeah,
become the guy in the field. So I think they were planting seeds of he still needs to learn from Ethan and Luther a little bit, and now that Luther's out of the picture, that's
yeah,
a whole nother thing that was kind of weird at the beginning of
yeah,
this movie. Now that
yeah,
Luther's out of the picture, Benji kind of steps up.
yeah.
So I think that's kind of why it worked out that way, because they went out of their way to establish he's still learning from these two veterans in the previous movie.
Fair. Yeah, but after watching Rogue Nation, after watching Ghost Protocol, after watching Fallout, it's like, give my boy Benji a little bit more time. No, but I get it. I get it. I get it. But like I said, I like the idea of that what they were playing with. Go ahead.
I can say two positive things. I did like bringing Rolf Saxon back as Donlo. I thought that was fun seeing him again after the original Mission Impossible and getting him back in
I
after all
like
these years.
I
And
like
they
that a
had some
lot.
fun with this. And I did like the subsequence. It is a little long. I think Brandon said that didn't you say you found yourself getting a little bored during the submarine sequence?
Oh, like during the submarine
Yeah,
sequence, during the
I,
airplane sequence, like we
I,
could have shaved that a little
the
bit.
submarine, I agree that it could probably be shaved, but the submarine sequence is the most I found myself drawn into the film, and I think it's because it was so different in a good way. I'm talking about a lot of things that are different in a bad way, but if you put this in a better movie where there being a team around it and we have all the other, I liked the sub bit. I thought that was a very impressive
Yes.
piece of filmmaking. I like
Yeah.
it better than biplanes. Biplanes we've seen before. It's just crews hanging off a plane. We do it with helicopters in Fallout. We do it in Rogue Nation. He's always dangling off the side of something flying through the air. And it goes on forever, and it largely hinges on Gabriel, we've established is not a good villain. So of the two major set pieces, I much preferred Submarine.
What do I like? Yeah, submarine sequence, really my favorite part of the entire movie. One, I know everyone thought it was slow, but like that was the most engaged I was in the entire movie. Especially with every constant, like from the moment he jumps out of the first submarine and then passes the Russian one and then has to descend down all the way to the moment he escapes through the torpedo tube. I was on board and all that stuff. I like a lot of the cast. I do enjoy some of the cameos, even though a lot of them from like Hannah Waddingham to like Craig Tarzan Davis, Shia Wingham, like those characters I don't care for. They really don't add anything to the plot. And I feel like a lot of those characters are unnecessary. But I did enjoy a lot, the submarine cameo from Katie and I forgot the other guy's name, Trammell Tillman. I think they were really fun in this movie and all that stuff. But yeah, besides that, and like talking about this movie, I'm actually kind of angry, which is hilarious because I felt pretty good, like for like the past week.
I'm telling you, this is how it's going to be with everybody as they think about it and as they rewatch it.
Because like I was just mad that Luther died early on. Like that didn't. I don't know why they did that.
I remember we're on the tier list. Mike, I think it was you saying, as long as Luther doesn't, you guys were talking about that. As long as Luther's okay.
Here's the thing
Like,
with that. It's the right idea, but the execution was wrong. Because I mean, I've been advocating for them killing Luther to up the stakes for at least 2 or 3 movies now. Because
Damn.
yeah, I mean, at some point you've got.
I am not on that team.
At some point,
Jeremy Renner was right there.
At some point, you've got to rattle the family and kill someone who matters. And silly me thinking, well, they're never going to kill Ilsa. Why would they do that? That would be a terrible, terrible decision. So you
But
have to.
no, let's replace her with
So
another person
so
that is very platonic with Tom.
so you have to kill Luther or Benji. One of those two has to go, and I've been saying that for a couple movies now. So that we finally get around to it, and we lose Luther, but it's not really an inciting event. Inciting, not exciting. It's not really an inciting event in this movie. It's just sort of matter of fact part of the plot, like a third of the way in. It's vagued up a bunch because he's also struggling with some sort of illness, clearly, that we're not.
So he was gonna go.
Yeah, we're not. It's almost like they were too scared to kill him outright. So let's give him the hints of a disease that might be fatal
like
anyway. Yeah, so it's the execution is what was really lacking with Luther, I thought.
I was just gonna say it's lacking stakes simply because the whole thing of Luther is the only person who created something to stop the entity. It's like, what if that got destroyed?
Yeah.
If we're gonna blow up Luther, destroy the dang thing that can stop you, Gabriel. That would have upped the stakes, and now we have to figure out a plan B on how to stop the entity. But instead, it's just like Gabriel still has the key, and so like Luther blew up for what reason? Because he couldn't make another one. He was sick anyway. I don't know if he'd be able to make one in time, and so it's very muddled. You're right.
And it also goes back to this being like the Tom Cruise show, because like again, this series started out as the Tom Cruise show and then vastly improved as it became more and more about a team. But when we're back to this one and we're losing Luther, really only Ethan reckons with it. He's the only one that mourns Luther. We don't get the team mourning Luther. And it just becomes all about Ethan. Everything in this movie just becomes all about Ethan, how he's our Lord and Savior, and it's up to him to save and protect the world and no one else. And I get that Tom Cruise is the star of this movie, and we wouldn't want it any other way, but it's not how things went in the Ghost Protocol Rogue Nation era.
Yeah.
And there's one more thing to add to that. This sickness thing came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Not explained.
No, and it wasn't even like teased on Dead Reckoning at all. Like, we know he's going to go full hermit because he said, hey, I got to be disconnected. Okay, cool, bet. Do what you need to do. When we find you're sipping tea and watching reruns on VHS of Uncle Iroh talking to Zuko. Get it. But he's sick. Where did that come from?
I was so confused when that happened. I could have sworn I just watched this movie. Why is this?
I'm going to tell you exactly where it came from. Christopher McQuarrie has been very open and very clear over the last decade about how they make these movies now. And they make them up as they go. There's never a completed script. There's never a locked script. They figure out what stunts they want to do. They kind of figure out sort of what effect. Yeah, they kind of figure out what emotions.
It's worse, a video game. We're just trying to piece together cutscenes.
They figure out what stunts they want to do. They sort of figure out what they want their mission to be. They figure out what emotions they want to mine out of Ethan, but there's no story. And they start filming without an A to B to C to D story. And they're very honest about this. And it worked for Rogue Nation. And I think they thought we can do this way. And it worked in Fallout, even though some of us are a little down on Fallout. I still think Fallout's a great movie. It's not top tier, but Fallout is largely considered by the masses the best Mission Impossible movie. And
yeah, it was Nate's favorite, just last video.
Yeah, at that point, it's easy to understand McQuarrie and Cruise thinking we can do it this way. It always works. And then you get to Dead Reckoning, and it starts to not work. And I like Dead Reckoning, mostly because I think it's a shitload of fun. I actually like the stunts in that movie better. The train sequence is amazing.
Yes.
It's a chase movie. I'm a big fan of chase movies, and that's a pure chase movie. Talking about the characters, it's so weird. Shea Wiggum and Haley Atwell are delightful in Dead Reckoning. Those two are just lovely additions to this franchise in Dead Reckoning. You get to the final Reckoning, they're not really given anything interesting to do.
I don't know how I went from caring about two characters to not giving a damn about them in the next movie. I don't know how that happens within the span of, because I watched Dead Reckoning the night before because I was like, all right, this is it, this last match, whatever, last adventure. And by the end of this movie, I was just like, this is.
I'm gonna keep doing this.
I know.
So we finish this video
now at this point. But yeah, and then like when Shea Wiggum's character pops up in this one, I'm just like, this is the retcon. His dad was in the first movie. So now this is the reason y'all make me care about this. Like,
in Dead
That's
Reckoning.
the funniest retcon for me. Because just like, who is this helping?
In Dead Reckoning, Shea Wiggum is playing an actual entertaining character where he feels like someone who's watched the first 6 Mission Impossible movies. So he knows how unkillable Ethan Hunt is, and he's going around pulling on people's faces in the airport because he knows about the mat. It's like, oh my God, this is a new kind of character for this franchise, and he's tons of fun. You get to Final Reckoning, and he's just a gag used for a retcon to tie it into an earlier series, and there's really nothing else he does of note. And I got to talk to Shay for a while last month, so I apologize to Shay. I love Shay, but I wish
it's not you, Shay.
It's not you,
Well,
Shay.
You are not the problem,
I
Shay.
wish this movie
it's
could have
not
used
the
me better.
actors.
And then getting back to my original point, I just think Cruise and Macquarie felt that they were infallible and they could make these movies up on the fly forever because they were getting away with it and it was working. And around Dead Reckoning, there started to be real cracks in that system. And then with Final Reckoning, I would argue that system completely fell apart, and man, we should have had a script together first.
And it's like what you said. I don't know if it was you, Robert, or Cliff, but specifically Final Reckoning feels that they found the stunt and they backtracked the story to try and make it work.
Yeah.
And you feel the movie that way.
So there's two things that kind of happen there. That's part of it, obviously, because that's just their process. But also, Macquarie was on record saying that this movie had a lot of different cuts and rewrites because of reception to the previous movie, and I think that's why somebody like Grace gets a unique role. Like Cliff was saying, he didn't care about her in this movie and he liked her in the last one. I think since the overall reception to Grace was kind of they probably rewrote that character and like gave her less to do, and that in turn made her less interesting, because he said that they do listen to, like, they want to make the movies for the fans. And so when you make movies for the fans, you start taking in fan feedback, you start getting like a product like this or a Justice League, right? This is not nearly as bad, I don't think, as like that Justice League cut, but Shea Wiggum's character and Haley Atwell's characters probably got nerfed because some people were like, I don't like them in this movie, which was a weird take. I thought they were okay in Dead Reckoning. I still didn't really love Grace, but I think a lot of the Grace hate was because of also killing off Elsa and replacing her with another woman.
We do need to get into the argument of, can we give them a pass for the challenges they had to overcome to get this movie out? And so here's what we're talking about. We're talking about multiple strikes. We're talking about COVID, which we were in the prime of when they were shooting these 2 movies and shut them down for a long time. We're talking about, I firmly believe that they didn't choose to kill Rebecca. They didn't choose to kill Ilsa. They did because Rebecca Ferguson wanted out of the series. Like, if you read interviews with her, and I know she gave in one particular interview where she basically says, look, the shoots are a blast and I love working with them, but you're on the other side of the world for years at a time, just sitting on a set, waiting to do your, 15 minutes, however much screen time you get. And it was taking her away from her family and other projects that she had a bigger part in. And this is sort of my guess, but I just don't think she was in a hurry to re-up with the franchise. So faced with losing her, I guess Macquarie did what he thought was best in that regard. So there, and then as Mike just mentioned, there was the mooted response to, to Dead Reckoning, which was down significantly in terms of box office from the preceding ones and just general estimation of that film. So they were facing a lot. It was a lot to deal with. And yeah. I just wish the results could have been better. It blows my mind how different in tone this movie from Dead Reckoning has problems, but it is a shitload of fun. That movie is a lot of fun. And Final Reckoning is no fun for me. And the Ilsa thing, I think we all agree. I mean, Ilsa was probably the second best character in this franchise, I think. I mean, Rebecca Ferguson was incredible. She's in Rogue Nation, which I think is the best one. She gave it sort of a blast of life right when it needed it. And it's just, she's incredible in the 2.5 really that she's in. And they didn't recover. I mean, they kill her. There were Ilsa truthers like me out there hoping there'd be a mask reveal and she'd still be alive in Final Reckoning. that didn't come, and instead they just sort of awkwardly replace her with Haley Atwell. And it's like, one, we're not replacing her with Haley Atwell. What are you doing? That can't be done. And then they're giving Haley Atwell, short shift on top of it, and not even, giving her an interesting character to play. So that's a lot of words just to, again, illustrate how frustrated I get by how this turned out. Maybe not all of it can be laid as blame. Maybe some of it is circumstance. It's just unfortunate.
And it's funny because going from one movie to the other one, I need a closure with Shea Wiggum's character. In the sense of, at one point, I needed to see him pull a face and actually pull a mask out. Like, I needed that to happen.
I can't tell if you're half joking, but that is a really good point.
I needed that.
There, right? The setup is there. How brilliant would have that been?
Yes.
Brandon, they should have had you as a co-writer on
No,
the show.
and
that's an incredible
not only
What
that,
if he did that and it was Elsa? That would have been hilarious.
Bro, apart from a little creepy, but yes, it's one of those things,
just
like
Pop Clementine's face and it's just
and it's Elsa. Yeah, but it's and that's the one thing I am gonna say. The one thing that persists in a very pleasing way is that Tom Cruise's comic chops, like the way like the scene in Final Reckoning where they're freeing Paris from prison, and you got Benji on one. I think it's Benji on one side. No, it's and Paris. It's Benji on one side, and Paris on the other, and he's looking and he goes, and he's trying to like mediate. Like those little comment like moments with Tom are still phenomenal.
Not enough of them though.
Correct. Yeah. But like, those little things, like you mentioned fan service, Mike, and it's like, talk about not understanding your fan base in the sense of, yes, we enjoy the stunts, we enjoy what we see, but it's those character moments that we enjoy the most.
I would argue that that's what they thought they were doing, right? And this is where it's like trying to put yourself in their shoes and try and understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
This is like coming off of the previous movie, which bombed, basically. And then you're coming also off of Top Gun Maverick, right? And it's like, people want Tom Cruise. That's what they're here for. They want Tom Cruise. And so we're going to put him in as many different and unique scenarios as we possibly can and get him into doing as many crazy stunts as he possibly can. Did you know it took him 6 minutes to hold his breath underwater for that submarine scene? Each single take they did it. That they're leaning into that stuff.
The superhero Tom Cruise.
See,
right, because that's what the memes are on the internet, right? It's Tom Cruise doing the craziest stunts. Like I even said on our tier list, like, I fear for his life every time he makes a Mission Impossible movie. And like they play that up because it's superhuman Tom Cruise.
Is he going to space?
It's very much the Marvel effect, where it's like there was a point where Marvel only started doing, like, they leaned into this multiverse saga, and nobody came to the Infinity Saga because it was the Infinity Saga. They came because they liked those characters, and they liked Robert Downey Jr., and they liked Chris Evans, and Marvel was like, no, we need to do event films. And then the event films just didn't really work because nobody cared, you know? And so I think they took the wrong lessons from what fans wanted. But like Robert was saying before, so many other circumstances impacted this movie too, like dual strikes and COVID and Top Gun Maverick. Again, like now you're leaning into, well, Tom Cruise is the draw, when Tom Cruise probably wasn't the draw. I would also say part of why this movie isn't fun is because it's a dark movie. It's trying to be a dark movie. It's, once again, this is why I keep likening it to Endgame. Endgame is a super self-serious movie, and it's probably too self-serious for its own good, considering it's about stopping a purple guy with a magic glove. You know, where it's like, Endgame at least does remember to have fun a little bit. Like, they mess up in 2012 and like Loki steals the Tesseract. That's kind of funny. But this movie can't be funny because Luthor blows up in the first 10 minutes of the film, right? And nobody's there to mourn him because this team doesn't know Luthor. Think of, like, the only people who know Luthor are Ethan, who does mourn him a little bit.
They don't have
and then
time
Benji,
to think about him.
Right. And so that's where it's like, we lose a lot of the heart and a lot of the humor because we decided, oh, this is the last one. We have to go all in. I don't think you kill Luther. I think that's really where this comes from. Ethan might have more fun if his best friend is still alive for the majority of this movie. You can't joke when your best friend is dead, and then
You,
the third act, Benji's bleeding out on the floor for
Ethan,
30 minutes.
I always knew you were on the right side of the fence.
as opposed to blowing the story out and having all these new characters and smaller characters from previous movies returning and stuff, they really should have pulled it inward, and it should have been a final movie with Ethan, Benji, Luther, and I guess Grace, because she's who we have now. And instead,
That one.
we're bringing those four in for one final mission together, where their love for each other and this found family that they have, with their IMF team, is really on the line. That's the story here. And instead, they kill Luther and separate Ethan from the other two, and it's just, that's bizarre to me. And then going back to the stunts, one of my biggest problems with the series, and it's something I hear from the internet, it's something I hear from critics, it's something I hear from fans, is this argument that a stunt scene is good just because we know Tom Cruise did it for real, which I refute. You can have a stunt scene that's entirely FX, that's entire green screen, that's the screen, that still works beautifully because it's shot fantastically and it's paced fantastically and it's scored fantastically. Just because I know something actually happened doesn't mean it works in the context of the story. I don't really like the Halo jump in Fallout because I don't think it works as a story beat, and it takes up too much time. And people I feel like, expect me to like it just because Tom Cruise and I guess Cavill did the Halo jump for real. And it's like, I don't care if it was done for real. I just care how something works as it pertains to the story. And we just give again, for like 4 movies, we've given this stuff a pass because we know Tom Cruise is doing it for real, which is impressive, but it doesn't automatically make your movie better. And in this case, maybe it makes it worse.
Yeah, it reminds me of how people got hyped that Florence Pugh did that jump scene in Thunderbolts. Like, they were treated like it saved Marvel movies at the time and blah, 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 blah.
No. I was saying Marvel remembered how to make a movie. There's a difference.
Thunderbolts is good.
I love how you felt the specific shot. I was just thinking just for the fun of it. But
we had this conversation before. This is why I knew it was a subtweet.
Yeah, it also
I
kinda
haven't seen
reminds me to-
Thunderbolts, but it's all good.
Yeah, that's going to be
It's a good movie.
fun movie for you to watch. But yeah, it also kind of reminds me of.
I don't know. I don't know. It might be.
Look,
it's a better Mission Impossible movie than this.
Listen,
How about that, Brandon?
Nuclear Man is great in that
Stop
movie. Okay,
it.
it's a fun time. But yeah,
I just want to see Meteor Man.
But yeah, it also kind of reminds me of just like how a lot of, and I'll take it to the martial arts scene, how a lot of people kind of overpraise Jackie Chan and what he does. I'm just like, this man is great, but this is a great action scene, but it does nothing to the actual story of what we're watching, essentially. And to piggyback off of what Robert said, but I will say I think one of the biggest gripes about this movie for me is specifically the entity. Like, just like, I know we talk about how Gabriel was a terrible villain, but the entity, it felt so dumb.
It's not a villain.
It's the MacGuffin. You can make the argument that it's the MacGuffin, not the villain. But it's
AI. It's Skynet done wrong.
It still doesn't work.
It's Skynet done
it's
wrong.
Skynet done
Will
wrong.
Smith
Yes.
fought Vicky in iRobot far better. And I'm just like, we've seen this. And like, why would the entity wait for every other countries to like fight over each other? I'm like, sir, just blow up the world and then you get the thing that you want at the end, which is just staying in this, internet, nuclear fallout shelter, essentially. Like, just do it. And like, what exactly is the motive here? It's
so
there's a problem with escalation where the movies didn't need to get this big. Keep in mind, Mission Impossible 3, which is a great Mission Impossible movie. I would say it's
Where's the rabbit foot?
Right, it's the first great Mission Impossible movie. They're chasing some sort of doomsday device in that movie that we never even find out what it does, and it doesn't matter.
We do now.
Yeah, we do now.
The anti-god.
But in Mission Impossible 3, we have no idea what it does, and it doesn't matter because it's about the characters and it's about the fact that the villain wants it. It's going to wreak havoc with it. So Ethan needs to get it, and that's all we need to know, and we're off. And we've had escalation and escalation and escalation with these plots because they feel like they have to. And now it goes back to what Cliff is saying. It's this world destroying, all encompassing, internet devouring. They keep saying cyberspace. I felt like this was like a hacker movie made in like 1993. How many times they use the word cyberspace? Like,
Is this War Games?
yeah, but yeah.
Oh, you took it right. I was about. Oh,
So I think it's worth, like, you guys were talking earlier about what it's trying to say, right? And I think it's worth analyzing the type of movie Tom Cruise and McQuarrie probably envision in their head, right? Like, Ethan's last mission is taking down Skynet. It's taking down this AI because they make real movies. Going back to what we were just talking about, like, all of this stuff is practical, and AI is coming for their jobs and our jobs, and all the meta idea of like Ethan has to go back to basics and he has to rely on old technology and the classics to save us from a artificial intelligence. And so that's what this story is trying to convey. And
Fair.
does it work? Maybe
No.
not, but like I can see the idea of like this is Tom Cruise making a real movie, and the message is don't let the robots win. And what, like, we already have news stories of like they tried to shut down this artificial intelligence and it was secretly storing a backup of itself because it didn't want to die. And those are real world stories that are happening in today's life. And so to say the entity, we don't understand its plan or why it wants to do this and why is it trying to do self-preservation, it's very much rooted in our reality and how AI is working today. Does that make for a good movie? Maybe not. I'm not going to refute that. But I also think Tom Cruise and McQuarrie are like leaning into this idea of art is in danger, AI bad.
You know what though? If that's what we're doing, why don't we have scenes where Ethan and Benji are figuring out that they need to go back to old technology and they need to outwit the entity in that way? Because unless I'm forgetting something, the only thing I can think of when the movie addresses that is the biplanes. But doesn't Gabriel bring the biplanes? Isn't he the one that provides the biplanes because they're offline and there's no computer component?
See,
Gabriel's
you're saying
doing
this. You're saying this. And
Ethan
now,
does say he needs one, but I don't know if who actually brings them to the location.
I think
So-
it's Gabriel, but
So we're going to run with this. I like where this is going. We're going to run with this. By the way, we're not reviewing the movie anymore. We're just rewriting the movie. Just so you know, if this is the pod that you were looking for, you have found it. We are rewriting the Final Reckoning. And if you want to watch a phenomenal anime that has sci-fi AI in the center, go watch Psychopaths. It's amazing. Just saying.
It's a great show.
Have to. So I would have loved that Luther, in his hermit stage, had figured out new ways of using analog technology. And they bring back gadgets from old school Mission Impossible stuff to be able to
from the show.
Yes. See, this was the moment to do it. You're looking for reasons, legitimate story reasons, to
And now
avoid.
Shane Wiggum's character makes sense.
Come on now.
Come on now. I can't even promise that there's not a line with Luther earlier in that movie where he says something like, "Oh, I'm using analog technology down."
No, he does.
Yeah, but it's not given the appropriate story weight. It's just a wash in a million other lines of exposition.
But that was a door.
And
that was a great door. And you got to figure he's after the first 30 minutes of Dead Reckoning, we don't see him again. So, I mean, you could have really run the clock for 6 months so that Tom Cruise's hair can grow in a legitimate, realistic pace. Because you cannot tell me that hair didn't grow because of AI.
Top 4 Tom Cruise hair, by the way. I'm just saying.
I think he's
so let me mention it's top. It's number 1, MI2, or is it Ghost Protocol?
It's MI2. I think.
Okay.
I like long hair Tom Cruise, although you could probably start to make the case he's a little too old to pull it off these days. But I'll leave that for others to judge.
Stop.
Or maybe I'm just jealous he has more of his hair than I do. But
no. But yeah, like I that is a movie that I would love to watch. Like them trying to figure out making this old technology work, because there's a lot of it in the film. Like there's a point to it. Like,
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think got lost
Yeah,
in the
Yeah.
rewrite and like the recut of this movie.
like I said, but like Mike says, this is right, and it's probably there. And if we all went and rewatched it today, we might see little shout outs and lines of dialogues fainting that way. But it's just there's
Yeah.
so much going on in this movie, and you're overwhelmed with so much exposition, and we got to get from here to here to meet Gabriel to do this and let Gabriel do this. It's like nothing really stands out. And when does anybody get to be clever in this movie? Like, I don't think I can even name one moment where it's like, oh, it's really clever the plan the team came up with there to entrap the villain or to break.
there was
Ethan
the
out.
only plan was the whole thing with
Yeah,
with Grace.
yeah, right. It's like the whole plan was we just got to let Gabriel do what he's going to do and track him and double cross him and then have Grace swipe the thing out at the last minute. It's like where's the intelligence of the earlier films?
The weight of the world relied on how fast Haley
On
Atwell
a pickpocket.
can grab a drive.
On a blink of
so
an eye.
crazy.
Yeah,
They said, y'all see focus, y'all see now you see me. Let's do that in 2 minutes.
No, and it's also crazy. Like when you think about it, the whole thing with I know that she was a thief in the past.
She's Selena Kyle. Just go with that.
she's a
okay?
pickpocket.
Well,
It ties back into her
no,
being
no,
a
no.
pickpocket. But
No, that's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
When did she learn IT enough to be able to really understand everything that Benji explained that she should be doing at the vault?
I mean, to be fair, the instructions were pretty much just cut this color wire.
there is a great
Fair.
there's a great Mission Impossible history of that, where it's in several of these movies where someone is instructing someone else on what wires to cut, either because that person is injured or because they're in two different locations and have to be doing it at the same time. So that at least feels Mission Impossible-esque.
Fair.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
isn't the one that I'd question. I'd question why does like you kill people, so now all of a sudden she's a surgeon. That's the one where it's like, okay,
I don't.
oh no.
I will say, Brendan challenged us to say what we like about this movie. I do like Palm in this movie, and I think she's fun. But
No,
like,
Palm is great.
but like everything
in both
else,
movies.
like everything else, not really given enough to do, and her character isn't really fleshed out in any significant way from Dead Reckoning, which is too bad because I would have liked to learn more about her and seen her because she's basically a villain in Dead Reckoning. She works from Gabriel, so I would have liked to have seen more of an arc as she sort of naturally becomes a part of Ethan's team. Instead, they bust her out of jail, and it's just like, all right, I guess she's on the team now, and her arc is over. And
can we also discuss the fact that she only speaks French, and we're assuming that everybody understands French in that plane?
Oh, I saw someone today describe to it as the Chewbacca effect, where they could all
Yes.
understand her, even though she's speaking French. They are the
She's
IMF
being
team.
great in a John
Listen,
Wick
we have
world.
to assume that Ethan could speak some basic French. At least
I would
Ethan.
assume. He can. He actually speaks it, but everybody else, I don't know. I just found it hilarious. It's one of those things. So see, the movie is so particular that I was losing my suspension of disbelief, and I was paying attention to all those little things that I normally wouldn't spend attention to.
So Paris's arc is that she wants to get back. She wants to get back to Gabriel. She's the one, Gabriel abandoned her or whatever, and she's the one that needs to get Gabriel. She's not even there when he dies up in the plane. Like, her arc isn't finished at all.
My favorite part of the movie is when we're trying to like diffuse the second bomb, not the first one, and then Craig Tarzan Davis is just like, there's nothing for me to do in the server room, so I guess I'm going to stay here. It's like, so you're going to stay back and die?
Yeah.
Is that your plan, buddy?
I don't know what he's doing in this movie, other than they liked working with him, because he's in Top Gun Maverick, right?
Yeah.
I think they just liked working with him in Top Gun Maverick, and it's like, so now he's around. But
So, and I'm going to ask a
that
question.
so funny. It's like, just because you have nothing to do in the room that's going to keep you safe, you're going to
I'm
stay
gonna
out here and just blow up?
listen, it's another example of them trying to give someone a character beat, and it just didn't work in this case.
I will say, I
I'm
think
sorry,
Palm's
what
character would have worked really well in the John Wick world. Like, and that's kind of what my like.
Yes.
Imagine how crazy
Agreed.
she was in Dead Reckoning with a big ass truck chasing down John Wick. I'm like, you're in the wrong franchise at the moment.
It's not too late. We can bring Palm over to John Wick. We can bring Shea Wiggum over to John Wick. We can give all these people things to do in John Wick Chapter 5.
Get him in the Donnie Yen movie, That'd be sick.
Bring Katie O'Brien
is just
over.
a boxer.
Katie O'Brien. By the way, I looked her up. Katie O'Brien is in The Mandalorian. I was correct. But bring her over to John Wick.
She's also in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Oh, I don't remember.
I'm sorry,
I don't
Katie
remember
O'Brien.
that.
Good. That's not the
Good.
role you want to remember.
She wants you to not remember that.
That's the
So
third one, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Unfortunately.
the one we
Okay.
do not speaketh of. I think we've done the thing, guys.
Yep.
We've
Just like
done-
Angela Bassett, who's wasted in this movie.
She's the president in Fallout too, right?
6 in Fallout. Yeah, Fallout. She's the
Yeah, okay,
or
cool.
no, she's not the president in Fallout. She becomes director.
She's like
of,
the CIA
she
director or something.
She's like the CIA director who becomes IMF director after Baldwin dies. Alec Baldwin dies. And then so now it's yet again, it's another character they brought back for this, just like Don Lowe. Just like a couple of those talking heads from Dead Reckoning, and just not giving her enough to do to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
I have
And then
one
they brought
thing
in her
to,
son. Like, why do I care?
I have one thing to admit before we leave, because this is a safe space, right? Can I consider this a safe space?
Yes.
We let Nate do a whole tier list on how hot the movies are. This is definitely a safe space.
Everything I just said over the last hour and 10 minutes, I pre-ordered the 4K Steelbook. Because
God dang it.
listen,
but we all know
Listen,
why.
listen,
Because you are a
collectibles in you, right?
completionist.
that's correct, Brandon. I am a completionist. I own the first 7. I love this series. We can still say I absolutely, yeah, there we go. I adore 6 out of 8 of these movies. Of course, I'm going to watch it and give it a second chance. Maybe parts of it will grow on me in a second viewing. I own The Rise of Skywalker, for fuck's sake, just because I'm a completionist on that end.
They fly now.
So, yeah, a nice.
I just bought season 8 of Rick and Morty, so
a
it's all
nice 4K edition of The Final Reckoning will be showing up at my house in 4 to 6 months, and I'll give it another whirl and report back if it grows on me at all.
I say y'all make being a completionist sound like it's hell. Like I
is
can't put
sometimes.
myself through that mental torture.
He bought The Rise of Skywalker. He's in a different type of purgatory, man.
It's I don't do this with a lot. It's not like I'm owning every Friday the 13th or everything. There's many series where I can just pick and choose my favorites. But when you have a batting average as strong as the Mission Impossible batting average, right, Brandon? You want the collection when you're batting.
That's fair.
average is that
That's
high.
fair. I like that I make my home in the Mission Impossible world right in the middle. Yep.
Where are we putting this one?
You know what my
buddy.
vote is.
I think we move. It's mission failure.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
No,
I can't
you know what?
argue. Like, I'm just angry because I'm just sitting
mission
here.
mediocre. Let's do mission mediocre.
I can
I'm not
live with
gonna lie to
this
y'all.
mediocre. I do not think I'm not putting it down here. I'm sorry. I cannot do that.
I'll tell you, I am itching for an MI2 rewatch to see if I like MI2 better, and because I haven't seen it in a while, and I suspect I do like MI2.
You are
better.
a broken.
Not.
MI2 remembers to have fun.
Listen,
Naya's a real character.
MI2 is still better than MI1. I'm gonna die on this hill.
No,
I am
Mike.
sorry.
There's no way that's true.
That's not true.
I haven't seen these
So
films
boring.
in years, but there's no way that's true.
It's not.
That movie is the most boring film in the franchise, and for a action
Come
blockbuster
on.
franchise, that is bad.
CIA
I'm
break
sorry.
in, the helicopter train scene. Come on, Mike.
Mike, just say you hate Brian De Palma and call it a day.
By the way, CIA break in, one of the highlight scenes of this entire franchise. Is that some giant stunt? No, it's just a great scene. Why didn't we get more of those? And
I mean, we see him doing a lot of core exercises. Like,
I'm fine if you guys want to put it there.
yeah.
Mediocre it is.
No, I was saying while we were talking about this, I went back on my letterbox and took a star away from this movie.
Oh no!
Just while talking about it.
He took a star off.
My work here is done. Cliff took a star away. Good job.
How
Cliff.
many stars does it sit with now?
It's at a 3, but that's where I put most of these movies. Like, if it's a 3, I'm like, it's fine. It takes a lot for me to give it a 4 or 4.5 even. But like, I'm genuinely angry because I'm just like, what did I watch last week? I sat through 3 hours and had a good time, but maybe I watched a different movie at this point.
You see, I was always at 3.5 stars on my letterbox. I'm still there. That's fine. 2 stars. Oof.
2.5. And I don't even have a letterbox.
How do you not have? That makes sense. I don't follow you there. Why don't you have a letterbox? Hold up. We got to bully Brandon to getting letterbox.
Time to get a letterbox, Brandon. It's the only good social media platform.
Why? Because you don't say anything. You just put stars on things.
I say lots of things.
You can say anything and everything, Mike. And
He said, "I say lots of
my
things."
final
love it.
reckoning entry at Letterboxd is quite long.
I have something to add. As somebody who did a double feature with this and Lilo and Stitch, I think you guys realize that this is still a really good movie compared to other films that came out recently. Just saying.
Yeah. Lilo and Stitch was okay. As someone that's never seen the original, but knows the story,
God.
I've never been interested.
I just got a critic screening invite for Ballerina, and God, I hope it's better.
Well, if you listen to Insider Shatter, the news are it probably isn't.
Yeah, we'll see.
Fingers crossed. Guys, if you enjoyed this, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Let us know what you think. Mission Impossible in the comments. Go check out the tier list if you haven't. Though we already spoiled it, here's the full tier list for you anyway.
But you can watch how they got there.
You can see how we got there.
It was mostly me bullying them about what goes where, so, or at least Nate. Mike and I were bullying Nate.
We bullied Nate because Fallout is the third best, at best, Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah.
And,
No, it isn't.
He had to.
It isn't. There's no way that Fallout is better than MI3. I
said at best.
Just saying.
Brandon and Nate have to come back together and have their own discussion about this, and then we can give Nate's ranking of the sexiest movies with final reckoning included. Like,
You think I have the power to convince someone? Is that what you're trying to say? But
you might be able to convince Nate. Nate's a special case. Like you gotta go back to back with him essentially in this case.
I think he's looking for different things in these movies. Like, so I'm gonna respect his opinion. But Robert, where can people find you and your letterbox?
My letterbox, I'm at RB Taylor, and that's not linked to at my website, but all my other social media and all my little online scribblings about movies and such you can find at rbtrights.com. But yeah, RB Taylor on Letterboxd. That's where all my good stuff is.
Cliff, talk to us, bro. Cliff, boom.
Yeah, pretty much you can find me on YouTube and Letterboxd at Cliff Boom. I am a social media nomad, so like if you want to see me, you gotta catch me here on the Chatter After in those other platforms essentially.
He like me.
I was on Blue Sky and I'm like, where'd my boy at? He got like dusted. I'm like, where did this man just disappear? He was here one day and then he just like turned into dust the next day.
Yeah, I still have it. It's just deactivated because I'm just like, why am I on this thing? I really don't need to be.
Go, Mike. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Novice Cinephile on Letterboxd and Blue Sky and TikTok and YouTube. Instagram is The Novice Cinephile. I'm mainly just here. You can find me here talking on Insider Chatter, the Chatter After. We've got more stuff that we have to get through. We probably talked to Dumb over on Insider Chatter this week because One Piece and Wednesday and all that fun stuff happened and Stranger Things got a release.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for One Piece. And you can find me at Monkey D. Braffy, Blue Sky Social. I'm sometimes on TikTok. Or you can find me on the Chatter After here. I'm excited because we have plans on talking a lot of Superman in the month of June. So stay tuned if you're looking forward to hear us talk a lot of Superman. If you love what we're doing, you know what to do. But most importantly, please accept its mission. Keep watching movies and stay awesome. Peace.